All right, what's up, everyone? This is Sam, aka Wakeman VGC, and today I'm here to do a power rankings for the UDL Season 3 in the Arcanine division, which is a Dynamax auction draft. And because of the auction draft, I have the tiers each mon is in as well as the points. So basically, I'm just going to be going in order from 12 to 1. I'm going to talk about the team, the strengths, the weaknesses, what I did like, what I don't like, all this kind of stuff. And yeah, so to get things started here, we have the Shadow Ducks, coached by Ed. Um, so, you know, obviously, this is a bit of a meme team, right? Got the evolution theme going on, and I respect it. However, I do have to rank these all on the same scale, and so because of that, this team suffers a lot. Um, I am honestly not sure what some of the non EV picks are doing here. It's really they don't make a whole lot of sense to me, honestly. Um, Obviously Torkoal with Leafeon is good. T-Tar, I guess, next to like Sylveon, but I feel like having triple weather is going to get in the way a lot. Ninetales feels pretty redundant and kind of useless. Meowstic is obviously a good pick, and I think it's good on the team. I just don't get like I mean, again, I'm not really even addressing the EV picks because I realized they're meme picks, but this team has little to no speed control. Um, like, yeah, I guess you have Prankster Thunderwave from Meowstic, and like your Trick Room setters are Meowstic and Espeon, which is not a situation you want to be in if you're setting Trick Room. Um, and then on top of that, no Tailwind, and you really the only speed control here that's like reliable is Ninetales Icy Wind and Meowstic slash maybe Jolteon Thunderwave. It's rough. It's gonna be rough to keep speed control with this team. Um, Again, like the offensive output isn't too terrible. The speed tiers are pretty good from 130 to 20 with a decent amount of mons over 100, which is nice. I just don't like again because it's an EV team because of some other weird things I see with the higher tiers. I just really don't think that the team that like I think this team is going to struggle a lot, mainly with speed control, but also like I'm not a huge stickler about type charts, but like look at the type chart for this team. No rock resist, 3 weaknesses. Ground goes crazy. Mainly ground and rock, honestly, go really crazy into this team. Steel as well. Um, like I feel like you only really have to run a couple different moves into this team and it's gonna work because there's not a whole lot of great defensive synergy. Um, but yeah, again, it's not like it doesn't have its strengths. Sylveon proccing weakness policy on T-Tar is cool. Meowstick supporting everything with prankster stuff is cool. Um, Torkoal Leafeon is cool. It's just there's a lot of problems with it. Um, so moving on, we have at number 11 Rhodey Rhydons, coached by Marsh Pitt, I think his name was. Um, so this team is interesting because I think that the speed control is pretty good. Fletchender is priority Tailwind. You have 2 Trick Room setters, but that is where my biggest problem with the team comes in, actually. Bronzong and Slowking feel super weird together. As well, honestly, Glastrier and Mudsdale together don't make a whole lot of sense to me. Um, they're both Trick Room setters. They can both function independently of one another, but you kind of stop them both the same way. You intimidate them, you burn them, you run Iron Ball, Charm, whatever. I don't know. I feel like the team is losing a lot of potential versatility because the fast mode here is like Fletchinder Tailwind with Max Dracozolt and like Raikou doing stuff. I just don't see like I think the team, because of those redundancies, especially in the Trick Room mode, it loses a lot of its potential versatility that I think makes some of the higher teams on this list really good. Um, yeah, I don't know. And then, there's other things like Bronzong in tier 1 I think is overvalued. Um, like the I just this is a really strange team to me, but yeah, like I said, like it's pretty fighting weak, um, which is not a terrible weakness to have because Max Knuckle is weak, but close combat does exist. Um, I think that like overall, it's gonna struggle with like really like just a few things, right? Because like Glastrier and Mudsdale are counted the same way, more or less. They're both super, super good Mons, but I don't know why they have to be on the same team together. Um, Bronzong just feels completely unnecessary, and if I was the coach, I would trade it away the first week probably. Um, and then the fast mode, like I said, like Tailwind Magmortar, Tailwind Dracozolt is fine, like it's good, but Fletchinder being your Tailwind setter is going to make that a little inconsistent, and without Sand and with an inconsistent Tailwind setter, Dracozolt is going to flounder a little bit, I think. Um, on top of that, like Raikou is a great Mon, but I don't really know what it's doing here. Um, yeah, there's no Bulldoze proc. Um, again, like I'm a super big fan of Raikou, but I just like I feel like there could be another thing. Um, I'm trying to think of like, because there's so much type double ups here, and again, I'm not normally one to be like, oh, all type double ups are necessarily bad, but the more you have them, the more you are sacrificing potential coverage and versatility. And this team is already lacking in versatility because of its redundancies. So I feel like it's going to be really easy to prep for this team. Moving on to number 10, we have the Salty Suicunes. So this is a pretty interesting take on a rain team, I think. I'm like, my first thoughts right off the bat, I'm not sure exactly what Cresselia is doing here. It's gonna be really good next to Clefable to set Trick Room. But also like, what wants Trick Room here, really? Your slowest thing is Lampent, and then from there it's Clefable, Scizor, Pelipper in the 60-65 range. Um, I don't really understand the Cresselia pick, if I'm being honest. Again, like Cresselia is a great Mon. I like the Thundy. I don't know if you need Luxray and Thundurus on this team. Um, yeah, some of the picks are just really odd to me, and this is another one like no rock resist. I think having no resist to a type is rough. Like I feel like, because like that means someone can just click a strong max rockfall into this team, and no matter what they do, like no matter how it's like played around, they're gonna be hit by it because nothing resists it, and three Mons that are coming decently frequently, Thundy, Pelipper, and I guess not really Lampent probably, but Thundy and Pelipper are getting smacked by rock moves too. Um, yeah, I'm honestly not sure. Like I think, yeah, I just think that the rain mode here is like good, and I like it with Scizor and all that. I don't know that the Clefable is justified either, and I know that sounds really weird because Clefable is a really, really insanely good Mon, but I don't know what needs redirection here. Swords Dance Scizor, I guess. Um, but like all the Mons are pretty bulky, and like there's not a ton of setup or anything going on. There's 2 Defiance, which I feel like is maybe unnecessary. Obstacle could probably get dropped for something else. Speed control here is fine. Pelipper for Tailwind, Cresselia and Gorgeist for Trick Room. That's the other thing is like, if you need to keep Cresselia, I don't know that Gorgeist is like the best pick there, and vice versa. Like if you want to keep Gorgeist, I feel like you can probably get rid of Cresselia. And like I know they're in a whole separate tier and all this, and they do different things on top of setting Trick Room, but like I don't know when this team ever wants to set Trick Room, because it's just gonna lose to like any competent anti-Trick Room mode. Yeah, I'm just not sold on a lot of the picks here. Again, like the team has stuff, but I just don't think that um I just don't think that a lot of the picks make sense together. Sorry, I had to take a drink. A lot of the picks just don't make sense to me, and maybe I'm just missing something really obvious. But I've looked at this team for a minute, and I really don't see like, the Thunderous is like good, but ideally you probably want to have a team. You probably want to have Thunderous on a team where it's protecting something from Intimidate, and you're not like nothing here is like a huge Intimidate target to me. Maybe Scizor, I guess Luxray. Obstagoon is also Defiant, which just feels weird. And then I don't even know where to start on Miltank. I really don't get that one. But yeah, I it's just like a lot of the picks don't mesh well to me. There's not a whole lot of like synergy here, defensively or offensively, other than the rain mode. And I don't know where Clefable fits into all this either. Like it was the most expensive pick they took at 57 points, and it's a tier 1. And I really don't see it. Same with the Cresselia. Yeah, I really sat with this team for a while because I wanted to try to figure it out, and I couldn't. And so maybe, it very well could just be me. But yeah. So moving on to number 9, we have the Raleigh Rapidash. So the first thing that I notice when I see this team is speed control. Trick Room, Gothitel's your setter here. You're probably not setting Trick Room very often. Your slowest mon is Gothitelle at 65. Tailwind, obviously Whimsicott is like one of the best Tailwind setters in the format, and Tornadus feels a little odd to me personally. I think that I don't think it's needed. But it's going to be a good offensive piece. It has a really good speed tier, pretty good offenses. It'll be a good support piece for sure. I really like how Porygon Z is supported here. Like just in general, having Intimidate to cover it, having Whimsicott for Prankster Tailwind, Prankster Fake Tears, Prankster whatever. I think that's really strong. I think Porygon Z is probably going to be the MVP on this team. I don't mind like the kind of Firewater Grass core here with Arcanine, Bulu, Kingler. Bulu also feels a little weird here. There's not much like terrain support going on. You have Whimsicott, which is the exact same typing. Again, like they do different things, but they're the same typing, and you also have 3 fairies, which is like maybe not the best. It doesn't look too terrible on this team. But I would just say in general, like this team is going to lead hard on Porygon Z for its offensive output, and I think it's going to be strong. Like for those teams that don't have PZ checks, it's going to be really powerful. But if you have a decent PZ answer, or if you can shut down Whimsicott, I think this team suddenly gets a lot worse, because you are now like fighting from, because this team kind of needs Tailwind. And again, you have 2 setters, so like you're probably okay. But if Tailwind gets shut down, I feel like this team flounders because outside of PZ and like, well, no, I guess that no, I don't mind the offensive output here. Um, I don't understand having two tier fives personally. It feels like it's probably better to have an extra tier one instead of an extra tier five, but they're decent value tier fives, so I don't mind them. Um, but yeah, overall, I think that like I just think that the offensive like I just don't see a whole lot of defensive synergy. Like there's good, like this is a very hard team for me to evaluate really because there's a lot of things that are just really strange to me. I like the two fake out users. I think that Gothitelle and Mienshao is a pretty good combination, especially because Mienshao has inner focus. And then obviously Gothitelle with Frisk, competitive Shadow Tag. Really versatile, good support piece there. I'm just not sure about what threatening leads, other than Porygon Z, Whimsicott. I don't see a whole lot of really threatening synergistic leads that this team can produce. And I mean, the whole team likes Tailwind, which is nice. So having two Tailwind setters isn't the worst thing. I just you know, Whimsicott can only carry things so far, as good as it is. And I don't know that I think Torn looks more like an offensive piece here. Um, and I don't know that it's gonna run Tailwind that much probably. And Whimsicott is I just feel like the team might lean too hard on Whimsicott, honestly. So the Whimsicott sets are gonna have to be really good, and the play with Whimsicott is gonna have to be really careful. Um, but yeah, again, I don't think the team is bad at all. Um, but yeah, moving on here, we've got the Boston Bishops. So I like this team. This is to me number 8 and on are the teams I really dig. Um, for the most part. So the main thing about this team is the fast mode. Obviously this is a really bulky team, in general, but I'm not sold on the amount of support there is for Tailwind or a fast mode because Sigilyph is kind of terrible. And again, it is a Tailwind setter. I know it's in tier 4, and it's not the worst thing in tier 4 by a long shot. But, and then there's the Sableye Vileplume mode. I'm not sold on that either, honestly. I don't know if Vileplume is threatening enough. And then on top of that, it's Sableye is the only thing providing sun for it. So if Sableye doesn't come, or if you, because Sableye is one of those mons that gets massive four move slot syndrome, and I don't know that you're gonna. I feel like it's gonna be hard some weeks to justify running Sunny Day, and so Vileplume is just gonna be a dead slot if you have to bring it. And being a grass type, part of the Firewater Grass core this team has, Vileplume is gonna probably want to come a decent amount. I do like Glalie. I do like Druddigan. Escavalier, Porygon 2, Togekiss, Heatran. There's a super good core here of Togekiss enables the Trick Room to go up from Porygon 2. And then Escav abuses the Trick Room really well, as so does Druddigan. Not as well, but 48 is slow enough for a lot of teams. I think that, and then Togekiss Heatran is really good. Togekiss Blastoise is also really good. Yeah, I think in general
this team has a lot of really good versatile lead options. And then like having Lightning Rod in the back for Stoys and Togekiss is super good. I think there's a lot more synergy here than on the previous teams, and I think that's why I like it better. Um, the defensive synergy here especially is really good. Although I do have to point out another team with no rock resists and three weaknesses. I don't like that situation for any team. It's not the end of the world for this one because you do have two steel types, you have Blastoise, you have ways to like deal with that, especially because two of the rock types or two of the rock weak mons are like your low tiers. Um, but yeah, I like this team. I think that it supports its high tiers very, very well. Heatran Togekiss is super good. Togekiss Porygon is good. Togekiss is really like a key piece on this team. And I do think maybe targeting down Togekiss into this team is gonna make the rest of it struggle a little bit. But the damage output here is really good. And Sableye is gonna be a nice like alternative glue piece if Togekiss goes down. So I really don't mind that. And even like Sableye Togekiss is a good lead and to support like a max Togekiss. Or Glalie to proc weakness policy on Togekiss. Or Druddigon, I guess, or Sigilyph. That do it, dude. Weakness policy Sigilyph, I want to see it. But yeah, other than a few picks, like mostly Vileplume, I think I really dig this team. Um, like it's got a lot of options from that Togekiss being there. Um, I do think that again, like the fast mode is going to be a little hard to pilot sometimes because opposing speed control. So I feel like it's gonna have to default to Trick Room a lot, which sucks because then you can't really Shell Smash Blastoise, you can't Chlorophyll Vileplume, you can't Airstream on Togekiss. For like those are just some examples. But even besides that, like I think that the team has like good enough output and good enough defensive synergy to get a lot of wins. So then moving on here, we've got number 7, the Handsome Forest. So this is an interesting take on a Sun team, I think. I have a team in Great Lakes Draft League with Venu, Tails, plus Cinderace. And this team has Venu, Tails, plus Blaziken. I think it's pretty interesting. I like the idea of Sun Setter and then Chlorophyll user and then Sun Abuser, like alternative Sun Abuser. Um, there's a few things. Yeah, I like this team actually. I think that there's a few things like I think Persian feels kind of useless here. The other thing is speed control on the fast side. You do have a lot of Icy Wind users, and yeah, I think the speed control is actually okay. It could be a little bit better because a natural counter to weather modes is fast tailwind or prankster tailwind or whatever. And so like not having tailwind on weather modes because again frostmoth is a tailwind setter and it'll get the job done because it can't be faked out all that stuff, but it also dies like hard. So that's something like that the coach is gonna have to be wary of. But like I also don't. I wish that the Finny was supported a little more. You do have Purloin for an Unburdened user, but I feel like you usually just can run Prankster, and then like it's stopping Purloin from Thunder Waving. It's stopping Venu from Sleep Powdering. It's stopping Ninetales from burning things. Um, but I do think like the Trick Room mode is really strong. With Steelix, Slowbro, Drampa. I think that's a really good Trick Room core. I do wish there was a Fairy type here, because there are quite a. Oh, ignore me. There's Finny. Never mind. Um, but yeah, I think that like Blaziken, Under the Sun, once it gets like a speed boost from a Protect and then spamming max flares in the sun, like that's gonna hurt. That's gonna do a lot. Um, I do think that overall that it's a little bit like, I don't know. Yeah, I like that there's a good trick room mode here because I think that trick room is obviously such a natural answer to weather. I mean, really, like any speed control is a natural answer to weather modes. But yeah, I guess really the only picks I'm not super sold on are Finny and Persian. I feel like I don't know when Persian is gonna come over Purloin. Like they're both gonna want to run Sash a lot, and I just don't like Purloin gets a lot more moves. It gets Prankster. I really don't know when Persian's gonna come Purloin Purloin, but I could be wrong. You know, Persian does get Icy Wind as an option. Um, but yeah, I again like this team is really good, and it's like it's gonna have a lot of offensive output. So next up we have Seattle Superlax. So this was a really interesting team for me to analyze. So right off the bat, you see that top core of Stila, Lando, Coco, and I'm I've drafted a core very similar to this. I think there's a couple problems with it, and it's weird because I might even have more gripes with this team than the past couple teams, but I think this team is still really strong because of just how good the pieces are on it, and how like there's decent like overall cohesiveness in terms of like offensive synergy and stuff. The main thing for me is, you know, obviously the Stila Rain team is tried and true. It's won a bunch of leagues. It's made playoffs in a bunch of leagues. It's a classic at this point, right? With a lightning rod user in Marowak, very standard stuff. Where I lose a little bit of enthusiasm, I guess, is the Coco. Well, obviously, Coco Thievel is another core that's proven has a lot of proven results. I also don't know how much you want to be boosting electric moves when you have Steela on your team, because Steel is one of those mons that you want to protect it as well as you can, because if it's protected well, it's just gonna kill everything, right? And so like I'm not really sure that like the best electric mon for the ground electric flying core is Coco here. I also think it's I also think Lando is out of place here. I really do think Lando would be better suited as Garchomp. Because you would then have a dragon type and you'd have a fantasy core within your electric flying ground core. And I don't know, like, the team doesn't feel like it needs the intimidate. And the other thing is, like, Lando is super easy to abuse because it has to run intimidate. Um, I just think that, like, obviously this team is like overall such a tried and true archetype that like I can't rate it low because it's just like this kind of team has such good proven results, and I think this team is strong. I just am not sold on the like those top three mons. I feel like they should fit better together for how many points were spent on them overall. And even then it's like Marowak as a lightning rod user on a rain team is not bad. But like it's gonna be weakening Marowak a lot if rain is up. And I think you're mainly using your lightning rod for Steela, not for Politoed. And obviously Ludicolo is not weak. So I don't mind that, I guess, but um you also have like the option of Scarf coaching into Steela with Hitmonchan, or really into Lando too. Garbodor is whatever, it's a tier 5. I guess it's not. It exists. Well, that's the other thing. If Tauros is here, I really think Lando should switch for Garchomp. Um, yeah, I really think that's better. Uh, yeah, having a dragon here, I think it feels really weird to not have a dragon on this team. But overall, like, there's a lot of really good like offensive synergy here and defensive synergy despite that whole electric thing, because it's like, you can, like, let's say you set electric terrain and then you bring Steela out later and electric terrain's still up, like you can switch Marowak in, but then the problem becomes like you have this core of 3 mons that are all actively hurting each other, or like they all hurt each other in one direction and help each other in another direction, because like Marowak will redirect electric moves away from Steela, but it'll also not let Coco click electric moves. And then conversely, uh, Coco powers up electric moves into Steela, and then you can switch in Marowak for Steela too, but then again, you can't click electric moves. And so I just feel like it's a really weird combo that might seem a little clunky at times. Again, like, I don't think the team is bad. The team is good. I just am like kind of concerned about maybe the that top core is going to be really awkward to pilot. So at number 5 we have the Montana Metagross. So this team, I like this team. So the things that stand out obviously right away are the Rillaboom Drifblim and the Metagross, just with general good stuff around it. I think that I really dig this team. The Grimmsnarl here is a really nice piece in terms of like fake. A lot of this team, like Moltres and stuff, like fake tiers a lot. I do think that the speed tiers here, obviously other than Excelgor, which is a piece of paper, other than Excelgor, like the speed tiers here are a little lackluster. Like only having one thing over base 100 feels kind of bad to me. You do have a really good Tailwind setter, but you also have a really good Tailwind setter that's like really susceptible to Prankster Taunt, as well as like you can't really, I don't know, like this is another one where it's like, Metagross really loves Tailwind, and you're gonna set Tailwind with Drifblim Rillaboom, but then you are also gonna have to get Metagross in somehow. And like when Rillaboom and Metagross are both weak to fire, Drifblim and Metagross are both weak to dark and ghost, it might be difficult to switch those in sometimes. But also, like, you also have the option of like Scarf Bulldoze Rillaboom into Metagross for weakness policy. You can. There's Excelgor Palisand. I'm not sold on that mode. I've honestly never seen it pop off in a draft. I've seen it drafted, but I've never seen it like really go off. And so I'm interested to see if Kyle can do it. I don't doubt that he can, but I'm also like, I feel like I've seen it drafted so many times and never seen it go off. So I'm like, I guess I'm kind of questioning the viability there. But they're also good tier 4 picks. Like they're not terrible tier 4 picks on their own. I like Carbink. I don't really know that you need to set Trick Room with this team. And it's base 50. I don't mind the Carbink. It is a tier 5 after all. But yeah, overall, like, I think that this team is like, other than the Rillaboom Drifblim lead, like, it doesn't have super defined leads, like with a lot of its things, but the leads that aren't defined, like, it's gonna do that pretty well. And so I think that, like, this is like, okay, I see the Rillaboom Drifblim coming. I see the Metagross Rillaboom coming. I see the Grimmsnarl Sucker Punch into Metagross coming. But then it's like, can I stop that? Because those cores are so strong. And then there is, there's stuff I didn't even touch on, like Como and Moltres. I don't know that Como is the most supported on this team, but like, even then, like, I guess really with the speed tiers, it helps that Darmanitan's almost always going to be holding a Scarf. But yeah, again, like, the team is good. It's mostly like a good stuff type team, and I'm not opposed to that at all. but I do wish it had a little bit more of like a uh, like a surprise factor, because I think it's going to be pretty easy to parse out like, okay, this is coming, because the top cores feel so much better than the like lower mid-tier cores. I'm just worried about the versatility there. But overall, great team. So at number 4, we have the Chicago Cubs, coached by Toby. So this team, I think, is really, really good. It's got 2 tailwind setters, both of which are really good. I really, really like teams that have a secondary tailwind setter to Latios, because I think that a lot of the times Latios, you don't want to be like, I feel like if you teams that are trapped into I have to run tailwind on Latios, I feel like that makes them on struggles sometimes, because while it's a good enough tailwind setter and it's fast, it's also like do I really want to be using a move instead of like for tailwind instead of coverage or protect or something? Like the move pool's so deep that running tailwind I feel like hurts it a lot. So I like having Corviknight as a secondary tailwind option. There's a lot of stuff here that is just really good, and like Mamoswine is really well supported here. It can EQ next to Corviknight or Latios, which are both setting tailwind for it. I do think the team might be a little Trick Room weak, but you do have, the doc says Latios gets Trick Room, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. So the doc is wrong there. Oh, it doesn't. Latias gets it right. I'm just crazy, I guess. Okay. Well, all right. But yeah, like I just think that while this is another one that's like a lot of good stuff put together, and while I don't necessarily I don't necessarily think it's gonna be like super easy to, I think it's actually gonna be pretty hard for this team, because like prepping for it, because it's like what is gonna lead next to something else, because like you have 3 fake out mons, one of which is really like probably going to come a lot in Kangaskhan, one of which, 2 of which are that are probably going to be a little more matchup dependent, like Impidimp and Pikachu, but are still very usable in their own right. I'm also just like, I don't know that. No, yeah, I just think that it's a little Trick Room weak, but that's really the biggest weakness I see with this team. I honestly think that the fast mode is going to do enough damage, and Spectre is phenomenal at killing Trick Room setters, especially the ones that are Psychic and Ghost type, which are a lot of them. So I'm pretty convinced that like this team has the stuff to deal with Trick Room. The other thing is like Tangrowth with redirection is, oh, like redirection in general is really nice for like stalling out Trick Room turns, letting your fast mon, like let's say Latios or Spectre, go off while Trick Room is up, because they're just hitting into Tangrowth instead. But yeah, I like this team a lot. So now we're getting into our top 3. At number 3, we have Snowbell Blizzards. So this team, I think this team is really, really good. So I really like it because the way that the types are like distributed isn't super conventional, I would say, but like it's still really good. Like, let me explain, right? So like you see there's Regieleki and Azumarill, and then there's Rotom Wash. So you have, the double water, the double electric, and then you have 2 fairies, but like it's very like, it's, well, one, it handles those double ups really well, but then it's also like I just think that the fast mode here is so crazy good. Like you have Tailwind with Xatu, yeah, but like Electro Web is like gonna be your main speed control option here. I think too that like Volcarona is more free to be like an offensive tool because you also have Togetic, um, which I think is really good. And then on top of that, it's like you have two redirection options. So it's like, yeah, you can bring safety goggles into this team, but then they can just lead Togetic too. And it's like you can nasty plow it with Rotom, you can belly drum Azumarill, you can quiver dance Volcarona. There's tons of setup options here. There's tons of things that really like redirection. So like it's really well supported. And then there's also like the beat up Virizion mode that I think is a nice kind of low tier, like, oh, make sure you prep for this because that can just kill you too. Um, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of this team. Like I think that speed control is good. Speed tiers are great, obviously. Even even not counting Aleki, right? You have 142, 125, 108, 100, and then you have 30, 40, 50. So like really good speed tiers that'll work in like a lot of different matchups and in with under Trick Room and Tailwind. So I'm really, yeah, I'm a huge fan of this team. I don't have a whole lot more to say, honestly. So number 2, we have Clinton Clefables. And so this team is wild. um, so there's no Tailwind setter, and in general, in like the fast mode, your speed control options here are obviously Sand Rush Excadrill is just going to be going faster, and then Airstream Moltres. And I think, excuse me, I think that that's fine because those options are so good. Um, and then it's got like answers for Trick Room with Gigalith and Araquanid and kind of Lurantis. Um, I will say in general, I think that I wish the team had a little better speed control still. Like you have Slurpuff. Um, well, it's not bad because your fastest mon has Icy Wind. Um, you have like Rotom Electrowebs, Slurpuff String Shot. Audino is your Trick Room setter, which isn't great, but not terrible either. I like that. I don't mind the speed control. I just think in general, like, this, it has a lot of very defined modes. Um, we Frostlass Ice Shard into Moltres, Indeedee Moltres, Indeedee Slurpuff, Excadrill Gigalith. But then it also has enough variety within that, like Riolu can lead next to Excadrill or Moltres or Gigalith or Araquanid, really. Um, Rotom can just I mean, like, that's the other thing is like Rotom can nasty plot next to Indeedee as well. Um, you could like Indeedee Excadrill lead, click Swords Dance, and then switching Gigalith the next turn. Like things like that. I just think like there's a lot of defined leads, but it doesn't make the team too predictable because it has so many variations it can make on those leads that I think that it's I'm not worried about that like in prep, and like and all the picks make sense to me too. Like all the picks, I like see what they're doing here clearly, and like it, I like it. I do think that like the team is gonna end up. Well, it's really weird, right? Because like the team is probably gonna lean on Excadrill and Moltres for a lot of its offensive output, but then you also have Araquanid, Gigalith, and Rotom that are gonna like be super nice cleanup mons in the back. They're gonna be super. Yeah, I mean they're also all good max options in their own right. So like yeah, I think this team is really really good. Like I am not excited to have to fight this team. Um, yeah, it's like it's got enough good, like really insanely broken leads that it's like, okay, I know this is coming, but how do I beat it because it's so strong? But then but like I said, like it has enough variety too, and like possible variance on those leads that I'm like a huge fan of it. And I don't like teams that are too predictable, um, but this team is not that. It looks like it on the surface, but I've even like just discovered new like possible leads and new strategies like just since recording. So I'm a huge fan of this team. So for number 1 is Great Lakes Aces. And I know, it's a weird look. I make fun of people who do this a lot. Put themselves at number one. And I really, really, really did debate for a long time between this one and the Clinton Clefables Rolos team for number one. But I've built with it a little bit. I have just theory crafted a lot with it already. And again, I feel really weird putting my own team at number one, but I genuinely think the team is insanely broken. Um, like, I don't think it's much. I don't think it's too far off from the Clinton Clefables. And I really could see an argument for them being better. But okay, well let me talk about the team first, and then I'll talk about the comparison. Um, so basically, this team is just Tornadus, um, with good stuff, but it's well on the surface that's what it is, right? Like Primarina loves Tailwind, Cinderace loves Tailwind, Regidrago, Serena, Lucario, Marowak all love Tailwind, right? All these offensive pieces, other than like Pincurchin, really, really like to have Tailwind. And so, like, Tornadus is an insanely good piece on this team. But then, like, also, it's got like a really fleshed out TR mode with like Oranguru, Pincurchin, Marowak, Iron Ball, Prim, that kind of stuff. Um, I got insanely broken low tiers. Like Kadabra, Pincurchin, Oranguru in tiers 4 and 5 are crazy value. And I like the offensive output from this team is almost I think it's almost unmatched in the league. Snowbell Blizzards might have higher, and maybe Montana Metagross or Chicago. There might be a few others that are in contention, right? But I think it's at least in contention for the highest damage output in the league, and it has that damage output spread out over like the entire team. Because like, I mean, what's not doing damage here? Like Persian, Oranguru, that's pretty much it. Like, and even then, Oranguru is just spamming instruct a lot of the times. I can instruct Rising Voltage, I can instruct Marrow EQs, I can instruct Dragon Energy, I can instruct Liquid Voice, Hyper Voice from Prim. Like, it has so many good instruct targets. And then it's also just serves as like a nice Trick Room setter if I need to like answer opposing Tailwind. But I also have like the best Tailwind Mon in the format. And I also have like Marowak under Tailwind outspeeds base 130s with the right speed investment. And so, it has like the option of Tailwind, EQ, and then obviously having Lightning Rod for Prim and Torn is huge. But then the other thing too is like a mon like Tornadus or a mon like Persian or maybe even a mon that doesn't like to max like a ton like Regidrago or Pincurchin might normally be huge fake out bait, but I also have Serena and it just switches in with Queenly Majesty and just doesn't care. And like Serena Torn is like pretty much guaranteed Tailwind, right? Like I'm trying to think of, because fake out won't work, prankster taunt won't work. You would just, instead of stopping the Tailwind from going up, you'd have to answer the Tailwind with like an Icy Wind or an Airstream or a Trick Room or a matching Tailwind. But like, yeah, I just think the team is really crazy. And then, there's like lots of coaching targets for Lucario and Cinderace both. So it's like, I think this is by far the most versatile team in this division. I think that the sheer amount of like possible leads there are that are all like super terrifying is really, really good. And I think on top of that, like just its ability to like put out just tons and tons of damage, but then it just has such good support pieces with Torn and Persian and Oranguru that really like glue the team together. I'm just such a huge fan. Like I think this is the best team I've ever drafted by far. I genuinely think it's one of the best teams I've ever seen. And yeah, I just think that the team is crazy. The reason I put it over the Clinton Clefables is I think the versatility is drastically better. And I think that it's much harder to prep for, I think, because it's got, just on paper, right, obviously. I think they're both really hard to prep for, but I think it's just harder to predict what's going to come out of this team. Like, what's the lead going to be? What support piece am I going to lean on? What if one, maybe both, or maybe all three? I don't like. There's so many options here, and it's just, yeah, I'm just super excited to use it, and I'm a huge fan. But yeah, that's it, everyone. Thanks for watching. Make sure to you can always let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, if I missed something. You can always DM me too if you don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time.